Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian. Today we have a fantastic video. As you all know, I love Four Roses. I'm not ashamed of it, and I know a lot of you all like to come to the channel to hear about Four Roses specific content. If you haven't already, jump down below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, let me know if you're enjoying the content. But today, we are talking about the latest single barrel that released at the gift shop from Four Roses. This is their Father's Day release 2024. Last weekend they had a Father's Day event. It's the third year that they've done this, and they surprised everybody with not just the 16-year-old OESV single barrel drop. These barrels that were in this drop are the highest proof Four Roses single barrels we have ever seen. Upwards of 69.1%, I think down to 64 or 65% or something like that. Incredibly high proof Four Roses, and they are from the RN63 run of barrels. And we saw some that were tier 3 and some that were tier 6. Really interesting because the proofs seem to follow the same pocket. Some of the tier 3 barrels actually had higher proof alcohol than some of the tier 6 ones. Not sure how that works, but that's not the point of today. Today, we are going to be jumping in to this product to see what we think about it. I'm gonna try to make this short and sweet. I'm not opening my bottle. I actually got samples of 2 different ones from 2 fantastic folks. Thank you so much for letting me grab these samples so I could do a side-by-side. Truthfully, I actually recorded a whole video with the first one that I had, and the magic of single barrels is that, man, you really get a different experience depending on barrel to barrel. We talk about that a lot here. Other channels do as well. This really came out here and affected my opinion on the product so much that I felt like I had to re-record it for you. So we are going to be talking about barrel 6P. That's going to be coming in at 68.9% proof. And then we're talking about 6L, which is 67.9%. Let's go ahead and pour these out, let them open up, and then we're going to come right back and we're going to start tasting these. When it really comes down to it, if you're not trying to pull them apart, you can definitely see tons of similarities here. These are well-aged OESV recipes of Four Roses. Jumping into the nose of the 6P barrel, it's pretty packed, it's pretty tight. You wanna let that kind of open up a little bit, start getting into the flavors. It begins with this perfumed, thick coating, sugar browning. It's a little earthy. It's got some vanilla, some damp oak, a little herbal twang to it. There's some lemon peel, there's some dried lavender, and then lots of caramel cake sweetness. As it starts to open more, some fruitiness comes out. It's not overly fruity, it's some dark fruits. You get like a raspberry syrup, you get kind of dark blackberry, and then lots of spiced or baked apples to it. And that's about the extent of where the fruit is. The longer it sits, you notice the rye kick up a little bit. Still a fair amount of like pepper kind of kicking in the nose. Truthfully, I think the nose is kind of simple. I think that there's things to explore for sure, but I think that it is pretty rounded and pretty easy to pull apart some of the notes that it has, except for some of the weird ones that I already mentioned. Let's switch over to the 6L. The 6L it's definitely buttery. Like it takes the kind of caramel cake that I mentioned from the other barrel, and it turns into like tres leche cake or something like that. Definitely caramely, spongy, sweet. It's got this kind of Tootsie Roll candy notes. So think of these like really sweet, candied kind of milk chocolate notes, toffees, honey. It's got more perfumed antique notes, and that kind of excites me. The nose on this is a little bit thinner and brighter. It's got some lift, but the first one, you know, it was very thick, but with that came some earthy notes too, so you might lean either way. This one, again, bright, lots of sweet oak notes, so not as heavy and damp and older wood as the first nose. It's definitely more of a sweet wood, a sweet oak. And then the red fruits are a little bit more present here. Some nice sugary red fruits, which I've come to love in a lot of Four Roses things, especially OESVs. Now it's time to dive into the palates. The palate of 6P, it's slow, it's coating. It drinks a lot lower than its proof. If it didn't lay so heavy on the tongue, you'd think it's drinking like 110. Dark red berries, plum, fig. There's almost a little bit of peachiness in here too, but it's not overly sweet and it's not overly pronounced in the fruitiness. Some dates, some spicy rye spices in there as well. It definitely is well spiced, rich cocoa powder like chocolate notes. It's not overly sweet like the nose of the other barrel. It's definitely like a darker, less sweetened chocolate, and a very lasting drying oak to the palate. That slightly unsweet chocolate, some vanilla, and like a long lingering dry oak. Flavors do hit kind of really thick right away, and then they fade away. You start to immediately notice them kind of leave the palate. If you think about flavor pockets like oakiness, fruitiness, overall sugar browning or sweetness, spice, it's pretty balanced for all the things that it has. Maybe a little emphasis on the spiciness, but it's really balanced and again, easy to kind of notice a lot of different things happening without it being super complex. The finish has some lasting caramel, again with that drying oak, herbal tea. There's pops of kind of chai-like notes, so like cardamom, nutmeg. While there's some fruitiness present, it is not the focus on 6P. Let's go ahead and jump over to 6L. Really similar to the first barrel, whereas the proof is still super high, but it does not drink it. In fact, this one drinks even lower. Again, still right in that kind of 110s, it seems like on the palate. It's more balanced in its flavor, but the emphasis is more on fruitiness than the last barrel. You notice more sugary caramels. You notice more vanilla right away. The oak isn't dry. It's much better placed, more balanced in the pour. Still gives a lot of really nice leather and sweet oak notes, but it's not as drying as the first barrel. It's good, it's present, and it's much more layered in the glass. This, because of that, I think it reminds me of the Kentucky Strong a little bit more. It reminds me of the kind of elegant, nicely layered, nuanced OESV profiles, even ones that aren't as old as 16 years old. Some 11 years, some 12 years, even some 10 years have things that are like that. The thing that I really kind of like about this pour is those antique notes that I mentioned on the nose, the antique leather, the antique oak, that slight perfuminess that it offers. It makes me think about the things I like about the 2019 LE, about the 135th. There's things about that I like here. Now, it's not as complex because it doesn't have all the blending, but this is really nice. Actually, another similarity has more of the peach ring candy type notes that I mentioned a little bit on the first glass, but it's a lot more prominent here and definitely on the palate. Honestly, again, I kind of already summed up this pour a little bit more, but let's jump back to the 6P. I think 6P has a lot of things I really like. I really like the kind of drying oak and a lot of things. This particular barrel, I feel like it might be missing a little bit. I think it's a little bit too simplistic, what I normally look for. I like a little bit more layer, a little bit more going on. And so this is actually the 6P is the one that I did the first video on, and I left the video kind of saying, you know, I think a lot of people really enjoy this. The overall Four Roses drinker will really enjoy what they get out of this because it's not overly challenging, but there's still notes that you can find in it. However, once I tried the 6L, that's when I had to re-record this video, because if I had done the video on the 6L first, you all would have heard me say things like, this is the best single barrel that I've tried this year from Four Roses. You would hear me say that this does compete with the Kentucky Strong. And if you want me to blind this with any of the LEs of the Kentucky Strong, either of these, I do have a little bit of these samples left. So let me know down in the comments if it'd be worth doing a blind of these to kind of place some rank on these in another video. I'm not going to do that here, but yeah, the 6L barrel though gives me all the things that I love, not just about OESV, not just about well-aged roses, all types of things. I think it gives me a lot to explore and sit with, but that doesn't exactly take away from the fact that a regular person will sit down with this and have just a really nice balanced pour. I think that there's things to love about both of these. If you want the more of a punch, if you want an easy drinking Four Roses with tons of oak and a lot of nice chocolatey caramel vanilla sweetness, there's a lot to love about this 6P. Me, I'm gravitating towards the 6L. To be honest, this video might not actually be helpful for you because some of you all won't have access to these. If you all tried it, you might not have gotten a barrel that I mentioned, and you might still be saying, hey, what am I going to experience? And while there are a lot of similarities, I think there are also a lot of differences. So as single barrels are, your miles may vary, but I'd love to hear from you all. If you got a chance to try this, or if you all got a bottle of this, leave me a comment down below. Let me know which bottle you got. If you opened it, let me know what you think about it. Regardless of which barrel it is and whether or not it hits my particular profile, this is a really excellent release. I'm loving these old age releases we're occasionally getting from Four Roses. Thankful to have gotten a bottle. Thankful to be able to try a couple of different ones, and I'm glad to be able to share that with you all. Thanks again, as always, everybody, for tuning in to another video. Hope it was insightful, informational. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you want to hear more content from me, be it Four Roses or otherwise, leave me a comment down below and let me know what to do in my next video. Till next time, everybody, I'll see you all later.